Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening, man. I want to welcome you guys back to the Conversation 9-8 for another week, another episode. Truly happy and excited about being on before you again and looking forward to the conversation for tonight. Man, all is well. My prayer is that everybody is doing well and things are on the up and up. And I'm sharing this with a few people. And outside of that, we're going to get on with the show. But again, man, looking forward to summer months is creeping on in, and there's a lot going on. But I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the transition to the summer. Uh, but man, I say this, man. Again, man, I've always said this. Take care of the people. Take care of people in your life, and love on the people in your life. Don't take that for granted. Take care of the people in your life and love on the people in your life. Do not take that for granted. But all in all, man, look, I'm just saying, hey, let me know where you're tuning in from. You can enter this is an interactive conversation. But tonight's conversation is one that I want to send a shout out to one of my classmates, high school classmate who inspired me to dig deep in this one, and just want to give a shout out to 9-8. You know who you are. I just appreciate that. But tonight's conversation, I wanted to jump right into it because I feel it's something that is going to be tangible to all of us, and it can be applicable to each one of us. But tonight's conversation, I want to start off tonight's conversation. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. But tonight's conversation, I do want to say it is sometimes you must eliminate to elevate, to make room for the increase in your future. I say that again. Sometimes we must eliminate to elevate, to make room for the increase in your future. And there are going to be times in our lives where we're going to get to the point to where we're going to have an excess of things. And that excess can be, you can look at it from a material thing, from an emotional thing, from so many different places. But sometimes we got to get rid of stuff. Sometimes we have to eliminate things. We got to get rid of it, not hold on to it. We got to get rid of it so that we can elevate. And the elimination makes room for our elevation. But that elimination also makes room for the increase that's going to come in the future. And that's hard for us a lot of times because we become comfortable with where we at, but we still have to eliminate to elevate. And I know that can be hard for a lot of us. That can be a hard transition. But there are going to be times where when you sit down and look at it, there are going to be times in our lives where we're going to find ourselves dealing with frustration. And I'm talking about a chronic frustration with something. It's going to be something that's down to the core. And we can be at a conflict. We can have conflicting thoughts and conflicting emotions because we may have prayed for that thing. We may have fought hard for that thing. And we may have enjoyed that thing and become comfortable with that thing. But over the last few years, you start to realize like everything that I'm putting into it, I'm doing the right things by it, but it's not returning the investment that returning back to me. And we struggle with and we fight to hold on to things that something God is telling us to let go of. We fight to hold on to things God telling us to let go. And there's a conflict because we're like, God, I prayed for this. But God is saying, hey, you got to let that thing go so that I can elevate you, because you can't elevate and I can't increase what I got for you until you forego and let go of what's holding you back. And you got to let that go. And that being in that space is not a comfortable space to be in. It's not a fun space to be in. Because the reality is many of us will struggle with being in a space of letting go, elimination, because we have grown accustomed and comfortable with being in that space. That space, we'll begin to identify ourselves by being in that space. And the reason why we identify ourselves by being in that space is because a lot of that stuff is something that we prayed for. God, we prayed for that relationship. We prayed for that job. We prayed for something else, and we got it. And once we got it, we appreciate it, and we've been going on. But a lot of times we tend to hold on things past the lifetime that is supposed to be in our lives. And what God is saying in a lot of those situations is, hey, this has run its course. So you have to eliminate it. And we have to eliminate it so that I can take you and elevate you, take you to that next room, that next level, take you to that next place. But in order for me to take you to that next place, I need for you to clear out and make room for the increase in which he's going to give you. I'm telling you that. And I'm not just saying that, but that is something that it can be scary. And, one of the things about it, and I want us to sit down and think about it, but one of the things about it is sometimes God will make things so uncomfortable for you so that it can put you in a position to make it so uncomfortable that you are willing to let go, because you would not have let go either any other way. And you are looking at it and you're distraught. I can remember at a time in my life where things that I had surety about and I was locked in on, all in on, and God was like, hey, it's time to let go. But I held on to it, and I fought. And if it didn't happen the way that, if the ties wasn't severed the way that it was severed, I still would have held on to it. But what I found out was God was just simply making room for my increase in my future. I couldn't see it. I didn't have the foresight to see it. But because God did, God knew my future. He knew my next step. He knew my destiny. He knew that I needed to eliminate to elevate. So he caused the discomfort for me to eventually let go. He did. And I will tell you, I am so grateful that happened. I am so grateful for that to happen, because as I look back on it in hindsight, what they say, hindsight 2020, that was some of the best things that ever happened. Now, one thing about it is when we make room for things, sometimes we have to do an inventory of what we actually need. Like there's a lot of things as you look over, I can go in my closet right now. There's a lot of things that I have in there that periodically I have to go through, and I have things that I got to just I need to get rid of because it's taking up space. So many of us, we have things, we have storage bins, and we have things that we stockpile things. And I know being in the military, we move a lot. You got a lot of stuff stockpiled. But from time to time, you need to go through and take an inventory on the stuff that you're actually going to use. And the reason why I say that is a lot of times we waste a lot of money carrying around things that we don't even use. It's just taking up space. And that's why sometimes we can't even elevate until we eliminate. Sometimes we got to downsize in order to be in a position to receive the increase in our future. For real. Some of our blessings, man, I would tell you this, and it's a God honest truth, but many of our blessings are being blocked because we refuse to make room for it. We pray to God for increase. We pray to God for elevation, but we don't want to eliminate. And that eliminate means there are going to be some things that you're going to have to tell yourself no on. There are going to be some things that some behaviors you're going to have to change, some habits you're going to have to change. That's making room. It's not always, telling yourself no is making room sometimes. And we pray to God and we want that promotion on the job, but we are not doing the things that we need to do to prepare ourselves for the increase. We want that relationship, or we want that spouse, but we're not doing things to prepare ourselves to become and embody the spouse that the opposite of what we're praying for. We just want it to be brought to us, but we're not willing to put in the work. No, you have to eliminate to elevate. You got to eliminate some stuff. You got to tell yourself no. You got to prepare yourself so you can fully walk in and receive the increase. You have to do that. And I know that's hard for many of us, but that's a reality that we have to deal with. That's a reality that we got to deal with. That's a reality that we have to stand on. And the reason why I say that is because when we don't do that, what we'll find ourselves doing is we'll find ourselves staying stuck in places and situations and places that mean us no good. And the reality is many of us find ourselves stuck in places, situations places that don't mean us no good. We find ourselves stuck in those places because we are refusing to eliminate the things that we know we need to eliminate. Many of us, we know that some people in our lives don't mean us no good, but we fear the optics of what it may look like to other people more than we're doing as far as we're elevating. Now, also elimination, most of the time, elimination is not always external. It really is internal. It really is. You got to eliminate and tell yourself no on some things. You got to change you on some things so that you can increase. And I know that's a struggle because a lot of times when we talk about elimination, the natural thing is to look at it from an external standpoint. No, most of our elimination is stuff on the inside of us that we got to deal with and we got to address ourselves on. Facts. That's most of what it is. Because the biggest challenge, and I want us to, what's going on, Leandro? How you doing, brother? Good evening to you. Good evening to you. But yeah, most of the things when I talk about eliminating, man, like our biggest, and I said it before, but our biggest enemy is our enemy. And I want us to think about that. And when we start talking about elevation, most of the time you got to eliminate negativity. You have to eliminate those negative thoughts. You got to eliminate that doubt. You got to eliminate those excuses. You got to change your behavior. You got to change your outlook. You got to change your habit. You got to submit yourself under to some leadership. You got to do some things. You got to be real and honest with yourself. You got to stop lying to yourself. You got to stop trying to tell yourself that everything is good when you know it's not. You got to start dealing with and facing your fears. You got to start dealing with your insecurities. You got to start dealing with everything that is hindering you from elevation. Because God said, I'm not going to elevate you at the rate and the mindset that you have just so you can fumble the bag when I elevate you. Many of us want God to elevate us, but we don't want to do the work. We don't want to deconstruct ourselves to rebuild ourselves to hold the increase in which we praying to God for. We don't want to do it. So why would God give us that? Why would God give you that? Why would our Creator give you something that you ain't even preparing yourself for? Think about it. Just sit down and think about it. One of the things about it, I look at it, man, and I look at a lot of things, and I've always loved watching National Geographic shows and watching animal shows and different things. And one of the things that is so amazing to me is how animals, they build a house. And you look at a squirrel. Squirrels, there's some squirrels that utilize a tree, a hollow tree, and they will store up. They'll find a suitable space to store up for their food to be stored to last them an entire winter, because they don't hibernate, but they find enough space to be and able to hold the increase so that they can benefit from it later. And they do all of the work to make sure that space that they have is filled up that will last them. If an animal can do that, why can't we do that? Why can't we find something to hold the increase in which we're hoping for? But a lot of times, in order to hold that increase, we have to eliminate some stuff. We got to make room for some stuff. And we have to make room. We got to. A lot of us don't want to make room, and the reality is this. It's the truth, but it's the God honest truth. A lot of us don't want to make room for things because we don't want to make the sacrifices and do the work on ourselves. We enjoy playing the victim. That's why we stay stagnant. That's why we don't elevate in areas. That's why we stay in the position that we are mentally. That's why 10, 15 years from now, we're in the same space, because we continue to use the same excuses. We don't want to work on ourselves. And we become those people that's woe is me. And we see everybody else around us that's been elevated, and we wonder why I can't be elevated. Because you're not willing to do the work on yourself. You're not willing to do the work that you need to do to deal with you and correct your deficiencies, to correct your behavior, to correct your mindset, to eliminate your excuses. You have to do that work, and you have to be willing to do that work. That's why you find yourself stuck in the same place next year, year after year after year, all because you refuse to deal with and address you to make room so that you can receive your increase. And I will tell you, listen, man. I want people to understand this, and this is something that I know is hard for some people, but true elevation will never be given to you. There's no nepotism when we're talking about elevation. I'm talking about elevation from a spiritual level, elevation from a personal level. Now, I'm not talking about you getting assistance from people, but I'm talking about you elevating your own growth. You are the one that got to do it. Nobody else can be responsible for it. You have to do that growth. And sometimes that elimination, there will never be there will never be elevation that will be done without having to have you to personally participate in eliminating something to elevate. You're going to have to do that work, period, no matter how you put it. And we can want, and we can desire things to be a certain way, but you're going to have to do that work. Not only you're going to have to do that work, but once you make room and you do that work is done because it prepares you to fully not only operate in, but don't form in the bag on what God is increasing have for you to increase in your future. And that right there is the truth. The sad thing is many of us, we don't want to do the work. We don't want to do the work, and we have to do the work, period. I mean, we can't get away from that. I'm just being honest. That's something that we cannot run from. But I would tell you, don't feel bad when you're in a season in your life where it may be a struggle with you coming to grips that you're going to have to cut ties with some things. There are going to be some seasons where you got to cut ties with some people, where you're going to have to cut ties with some organizations, where you're going to have to cut ties with some whatever it may be. You may have to cut ties, some business relationship. And that doesn't mean that it was bad. That doesn't mean that that relationship, that person and that other person, that relationship was bad. That doesn't mean that organization is bad. It just means that in this season of your life, you're going to have to cut ties. You're going to have to let go so that you can elevate. Because that next level where you're going to, it's a personal journey that you got to walk. You got to walk your path. You got to walk that path. And until you walk that path and until you take full ownership of every step on your path and on your journey, then you will stay in that same place. That elevation and that increase is tied to you walking in that path, walking in that space. I'm telling you. And don't be, man, look, I would tell you, I've been to a space, and I've been there before, don't feel guilty when God elevates you. A lot of times in elevation, you're going to have to leave home. You're going to have to disconnect for some people. People are going to talk about you. They're going to look at you funny. They're going to feel like they're going to say things like you think you're better than them. Don't sit there and try to argue with that. Don't do that. You focus on you and your elevation. Now, I'm not telling you to be a nasty person, but what I am saying is sometimes elevation is going to feel like isolation, because you're going to have to eliminate some things that you were tied to that was not conducive for you to elevate. And people who, and this, the reason why is people who have never been on the level where you're going to don't have that perspective, that level of perspective or understanding on what level you're going to. So they will always have an idea, but they won't have a perspective from a reality point. So don't let that bother you. I will tell you, don't let that bother you. And we've heard the saying, I know we probably heard the saying before, but an eagle don't worry about the criticism of a chicken. And the reason why an eagle don't worry about the criticism of a chicken, because the eagle is at an elevation and has a viewpoint and have a different eyesight and have a different ability to fly that a chicken would never have. The chicken perspective is on the ground in short flight. The eagle perspective is soaring in the mountaintops, in the clouds. The eagle have vision that can see at levels that the chicken can't. So why are you worrying about a chicken talking about you at your state or your level of elevation as the eagle? Don't worry about that. Just make room for you continue to soar at the level in which you was created to be. Because were you created to be a chicken or were you created to be an eagle? And if you was created to be an eagle, then it's time to spread your wings and soar. Don't worry about what somebody else got to say when you're elevating. Don't worry about that. Now, the other side to that too is, and I want us to really think about it, but think about this, but, you know, just because you're elevating and you're going to another level, that doesn't mean that you're better than anybody. That doesn't give you a right to look down on anybody. See, and the reason why that isolation comes, the reason why what God sometimes when he elevates you, he isolates you. He elevates you to isolate you so that he can make sure that you good on the inside and you can walk in that next level. Because you can't fully effectively walk in your elevation if you're not humble. If you don't walk in humility. Because the reason why is the elevation from God is always done to benefit somebody else, not to elevate you. Not to lift yourself up on the pedestal. I would tell you, man, I've learned that. And when God elevates you to push you up to a certain space, it's for you to open up doors and minister and serve other people. But if you get to that space and you get to a point to where it becomes about you, I will tell you, you will be humble in a very open way by God. You will be. No matter how much you try to fight it, no matter what. But just remember, you know, sometimes we got to eliminate to elevate. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you just got to, period. And I know it's you know, that's this stuff that a lot of people don't talk about, but yeah, sometimes you got to eliminate to elevate. You know, I remember this, and in the military, you know, and they say this, in the military, they say one of the hardest transitions in the military is when you become a sergeant. I'm speaking from the Army. When you transition from a junior enlisted soldier to a NCO, non-commissioned officer. And that's hard transition is because there has to be a change to elevate because you're going to an increased level of responsibility. A lot of times what happened is those E4 and below and the friends that you have from where you came from, a lot of them say, oh, you think you better. Oh, you changed. Oh, that rank went to your head. They will talk about you on those things. But because you accepted that responsibility, that level of increased responsibility, it's a different perspective. It's a different point of view. So sometimes you may have to eliminate those ties with some who can't understand that elevation, but that still shouldn't, just because you're elevated, that doesn't mean that you're at that level to look down on them. Now your responsibility is to look out for their well-being and serve them. That's the difference. So that's why I said, man, sometimes we got to eliminate to elevate, to make room for the increase in your future. So if you're going through something right now, and you may, I would say this, if you're going through something right now and it's a struggle for you because you feel like you are being isolated, but you've been praying to God for something better. You've been praying to God for a better relationship. You've been praying to God for a promotion. You've been praying to God for an increase in whatever area in your life. There are going to be some things you're going to have to eliminate. Because you got to eliminate those things so that God can elevate you, but at the same time, it making room for the increase so that you can fully house the things that you prayed for. So that you can house it, and not only house it, you can receive it, but you can thrive in it and you don't waste it. Because the capacity of what you have right now may not be the capacity in which you would need to be able to house it or what you're praying for. You got to make room. You got to make room. And I'll tell you, making room can be frustrating sometimes. Making room, listen, man. Oh, Jesus. Think about it. I want to say this, man. Making room for your increase can be very frustrating at times. Making room for your increase can be very lonely at times. Making room for your increase can be very isolating at times. But just think about this. When we start talking about a metamorphosis of a caterpillar has to isolate itself in its cocoon in order for it to go through a metamorphosis so that it can develop its wings and become that butterfly and fly high. Because that caterpillar will only be able to walk amongst the leaves if it doesn't isolate itself in order for it in that cocoon, in order for it to go through a change, a metamorphosis, an isolation, a period of isolation, so that it can become the butterfly and spread its wings and fly. You can't spread your wings and fly until you isolate yourself so that you can properly be prepared to spread your wings and operate in the fullness of your elevation. You have to be able to do that. So, man, I will tell you, man, I hope all is well. I hope everybody is doing well. Man, my prayer is that this was well received. Not only well received, but just think about it, man. You got to eliminate to elevate. Sometimes we got to. Just think about it. There's going to be some sacrifices. There's going to be some stuff that we're going to have to work through. But hey, man, make sure y'all go like, share, and support me on my social media outlets. The Conversation 98 on YouTube. Please go like and share that. Celebrating over 1,000 subscribers right now. The Conversation 98 on Instagram. Conversation 98 on here on TikTok. On Facebook, and the Conversation _98 on TikTok. Man, I appreciate it, Leandrew. Appreciate it, man. But I just wanted to share that, man. Sometimes we must eliminate to elevate. Eliminate to elevate. We must eliminate those excuses. We must eliminate those woe is me's. You see what I'm saying? We got to eliminate that and go ahead and make those sacrifices and do the work for our increase. You guys have a great and blessed day. See you guys later. God bless.